Hi everyone! Today we're going to share a new theory about Sprunki. Please share your best theories in the comments section, and we'll be sure to share them in future episodes. I'll go into detail about what happened to Spun and how their city became so eerie. The user FireFurryOo posted this theory on the Incredibox Sprunki wiki. To begin, let's discuss the fact that the game has dead characters, which may be categorized into three groups. This category comprises those who die relatively regular deaths, such as Sky and Tuner, whose injuries are clear-cut and explicable. Wenda killed them because she was the only one who could have caused them to suffer such harm. Pinky, Ratty, Gerald, Kluwer, Orin, and probably Veneria are among the strangers who died in the second category. Since Pinky's wounds mimic the aftermath of his bite, Simon most certainly killed her. Gerald was killed by his costume, although this may have happened by accident, and nobody was at fault. Perhaps during Wenda's or another person's attack. The third category includes people who become monsters. The Kluwer most likely suffered a head injury after something fell on his plate from above. These characters are hilarious. Now, what about the terrifying Dark World? There is a hypothesis that this is some alternative universe. But what if I told you that it's actually the world where the game starts? Take a time to think about how the Dark World looks. It's nearly completely black, enveloped in mystery and shadows. And who else in the game is most closely associated with the color black? It's black from Sprunki, of course. Could he have been the one to destroy the good, vibrant world? But what could have driven him to such a drastic act? All of the characters in the game form a close-knit community with one another, but Black stands apart from this unity. He has no real ties or connections with anyone else, almost as if he's a forgotten shadow, while the others laugh and support one another. There is also a haunting clue. A missing persons poster on Mr. Tree depicts a girl who shares a striking resemblance to Black in terms of design and style. This connection leads me to believe that this could be Black's lost daughter, or even his wife, who mysteriously disappeared. If this is the case, Black not only had to deal with the pain of losing someone he loved, but was also shunned by everyone else he could have turned to for comfort or support. Thus, it's a double tragedy that would have set him on a dark path of hatred and sadness. And as a kind of retaliation for his pain, he might have chosen to ruin their world. Perhaps because of his association with darkness, Black has a special ability to absorb colors. Driven by his suffering, he started using this ability to gradually drain the colorful world around him of its color, turning it into darkness. However, his vengeance didn't stop there. He also started stealing colors from other characters that caused them to lose their original shapes and transform into hideous, monstrous versions of themselves. Let's name this terrible power. Distortion, via it Black, gets his retribution by changing the world and its people. Because the sun releases light that is absorbed by plants, the plants in Veneria started to absorb this distorted sunlight, which led to their mutation and spread. This is why Mr. Sun was also impacted by the distortion in his image of sadness and loneliness. Uncontrollably, the plants spread throughout Veneria, changing its form and color to create an unfamiliar and eerie landscape. However, some characters, Wenda and Gray, were colorless by nature and, because of their special characteristics, were immune to the distortions and monstrous transformations that befell others, allowing them to live in this corrupted world without being disturbed. However, this immunity ultimately didn't bring any relief to Kluwer, and Wenda in particular was deeply. She couldn't stop the distortion itself, but she believed she could stop the full transformations by killing them before they lost all humanity. However, Tuner wouldn't allow her to carry out this plan, so she began with him. At the time, the world hadn't completely darkened, and there were still a few people who hadn't completely transformed into monsters. She was devastated to see everyone around her change into terrifying monsters. After this incident, Wenda started her tragic mission to find her other friends to end their suffering before the distortion could fully take them. However, seeing her companions turn into monsters and witnessing herself kill them drove her to madness, and the distortion eventually reached Ratty. Wenda approached Tuner, launched a swift attack back, disarmed him, seized his gun, and shot him. This is why Tuner appears simply dead in the game, without any monstrous transformation. He decided to take his own life before the process could finish, after realizing that he was going through the same terrible metamorphosis and remembering what had happened to the others. This stopped his transformation, but since it had already started, the parts of his body that hadn't completely changed became unstable and eventually fell off. So let's take a look at the characters that are still alive, if my memory serves me correctly. Mr. Fun Computer Brood, a fun bot. Since the previous two aren't alive, Wenda Gray and Jeffrey survive. They are merely machines. These are several theories as to why the multicolored brood who survived Simon's bite might have been impacted by distortion. He found characters and drained their energy when he saw the bitten brood, which he might have assumed was already dead or distorted and passed by. Wenda and Gray are characters defined by their lack of color, which made them immune to the distortion. Distortion has less effect on darker colors, which is what Brood has. Consequences of the distortion. The majority of other beings were changed into twisted and monstrous forms by this enigmatic phenomenon. But since Gray and Wenda are colorless, the distortion was unable to affect them as much as it did others, leaving them largely unaffected by the general chaos. Then there is Jevin, who is different from Wenda and Gray. Since it tends to impact people with brilliant, distinctive hues, it makes sense that Jevin, who is colorful and vivid, but having a dark edge, would have been susceptible to the distortion. However, Jevin managed to remain unaltered and in his original shape throughout the distortion. But how could this be? Simply listen to Jeevan's voice in both the good and the dark distorted versions, and you'll notice that although it didn't change much, it took on a darker, more eerie quality in the twisted world. It sounds as though he's casting some kind of spell, and if you look closely at him, his appearance even suggests that of a sorcerer, hinting at a profound comprehension of magic and the paranormal. It's fair to assume that after learning about the distortion's destructive effects, he might have used his magical knowledge to forge a barrier that would have protected him from the distortion's corrupting influence, preserving his identity and preventing him from turning into a monster like so many others. His magical abilities and foresight might have prevented him from meeting an otherwise inevitable end, giving him a special immunity. This leads us to regarding the question of Oren's murder. One plausible theory is that Wenda may have attacked him, slitting his chest with a knife in an effort to kill him. However, it's possible that Oren didn't die immediately, but rather lingered on the brink of death, during which time the distortion took hold of him and accelerated his transformation into a monster. In this way, the distortion continued to spread its evil influence even among those who were close to death. What do you think of this theory? Could Jeevan have used magic to fend off the distortion? Was Oren's monstrous change unintentionally brought on by W's attack? To stay up to date on more theories and conversations, please leave your thoughts in the comments section. And of course, remember to like and subscribe to the channel. Thank you for watching, good luck, and see you soon!